I discovered the psychology behind lo-fi music. You and I both know this girl. She's guided us through many exams, study sessions, and moments where we just need peace. Why are we so in love with lo-fi music?
Showing us that at least some musical education has a positive impact on social and cognitive development of children.
In this video, I scoured through research papers and talks from neuroscientists to show you the exact psychology behind lo-fi music. And to check if all those psychological theories hold true, I conducted an experiment on myself by going to one of Cleveland's busiest parks and testing to see if lo-fi music actually helps me concentrate better in reading. I'm on page 57. I was inspired by the video made by Answer in Progress, but I did an experiment on myself to test it out. Today, you'll learn about lo-fi music in a more psychological design analysis approach. Can lo-fi music actually help with focus? Is it even designed to? I'm a UX designer with a degree in cognitive science, and let's dive into the design psychology of lo-fi music. What the heck even is lo-fi? Lo-fi stands for low fidelity. For example, take YouTube. You're watching this video on a version of YouTube that has polished, high-quality design. However, before this point, product designers would sketch out a more basic, low-fidelity version of YouTube. We call this low-fidelity wireframes. Think of it as the basic blueprint or outline for what a web screen would look like. So then lo-fi music is this version of music that is less polished, has audio imperfection, and is made by equipment that are just not that bougie. This results in that low hum, static key, background noise that makes lo-fi music very calming. You know those cheap cameras at flea markets that you can get for $5 if you bargained, where it produces very pixelated photos? Think of that, but in music. Huh, isn't that interesting? We're basically obsessed with imperfect music. You know, in today's world where we have all this high tech, that seems like a paradox. Actually, there's a whole research paper written about this. Lo-fi hip-hop is characterized by a series of complex paradoxes navigated effortlessly by its listeners. The paradox being how lo-fi music is so popular in a world filled with high-quality products. I guess this just shows we don't need polished things all the time, as long as it gets the job done, as long as it's usable. It's like eating a bowl of bulldog ramen at 12 a.m. You don't need it to be Michelin quality. You're starving and just want to inhale it. And no, I'm not speaking from experience. But because lo-fi music supposedly helps us concentrate, we don't care that it's imperfect or low fidelity. How does lo-fi music actually affect our brain? Turns out, it's not just the music part. The whole idea of lo-fi music actually affects us as well. Here's what neuroscientist Dr. Harvey has to say about music on your brain.
Music also activates pathways within a complex structure called the limbic system. The limbic system is buried beneath the surface of the brain, is involved in learning and memory, and also our emotional responses.
Okay, so specifically, the impact of lo-fi music on focus. The origin of this idea stems from the Mozart effect, which found that by listening to Mozart music, you might activate task-relevant brain areas, enhancing the learning of spatial temporal rotation tasks, which are basically these thingies. It's kind of like that one game on Cool Math Games. But people were like, okay, what if it's not just Mozart music? What if it's music without lyrics, like lo-fi music? Overall, lo-fi improved test scores substantially, suggesting a potential alternative for the use of classical music or binaural beats when aiming to promote concentration. Next, it seems like music makes us happy.
Music also activates a reward center buried deep in our brain, a reward center that is also stimulated by other pleasurable activities like eating chocolate or having sex, not necessarily in that order.
Our reward centers are activated, so good music means better mood, means better performance. Have you noticed that whether it's chill hop, chill cow, lo-fi beats, Studio Ghibli lo-fi remix, all of that kind of sounds the same. And that actually helps us concentrate. But what if they didn't sound the same? What if something unexpected happens? Dr. Harvey tested this out and measured this guy's brainwaves.
What happens when the unexpected happens? Well, I mean, you know.
A live experiment during a TED Talk? We don't see this every day. Speaking of experiments, did I just conduct an experiment on myself? The science says that lo-fi improves performance and focus. But is it actually true? I tested it out myself. Come on, let's go on a field trip. Edgewater Beach, one of Cleveland's busiest metro parks, where people gather to have barbecue, play volleyball, have picnics, and so on. In this experiment, we'll see how productive I can be in this busy environment as I read, ironically, Ali Abdaal's productivity book. Let's see how much progress I can make without listening to any music versus listening to lo-fi music. I'm gonna attempt reading this for the next 10 minutes without any music. I'm currently on page 49. Let's see where we get to. At this point, I was trying really hard to not get distracted, but at one point, the people next to me playing volleyball got pretty hyped up. I'm on page 57. You see, in that round, I read stuff, but I'm not sure how much of it actually stayed in my brain. Let's see how I perform with lo-fi music. It was definitely easier to concentrate with music, other than the times it slapped a bit too hard. But you know, this time I'm actually reading and comprehending the words. Even though it's somewhat the same number of pages, I definitely comprehended the words better. So one cool thing that this guy talked about, there's this concept in Zen Buddhism called shoshin. If you remain present and treat everything as if you're looking at it for the first time, so you're like a beginner all the time, that might lead you to perform better in any task because you are very open-minded. You're open-minded to change, to new ideas, and this open-mindedness just leads to growth. Good stuff, good stuff. So there you go. Lo-fi music, focus, tried and true. But that's not all. As a designer, I can't leave this topic without asking, how is lo-fi music designed for our brain? What are the design strategies behind lo-fi music? Yo, wanna get some nuggets at McD's? Nah, you go ahead. I've got a date. Turns out, there's a very important social aspect of lo-fi music. There are tons of lo-fi music live streams where you can interact with other people who are listening to the music at the same time, probably also just cramming for their next exam. People talk to each other, joke around, share existential crises. It's basically like Reddit in real time. And in those moments where people are probably alone, people don't feel lonely. And finally, the user experience of lo-fi music is wonderful because of how accessible it is. There's so many to choose from, and there's just more coming up every day. And sometimes, don't you just feel like a main character when you listen to lo-fi music? Anything could be going on around you, but you have your headphones in, you have that steady rhythm and beat in your head. Everything is at peace. And there seems to be this huge sense of nostalgia. I mean, this type of music isn't unique to lo-fi. Think of the Minecraft soundtrack. Even though you're just Steve exploring this massive world, the music that plays is like a lullaby. It's so peaceful. Lo-fi music might also remind you of Legend of Zelda or certain Studio Ghibli films. Maybe it's because it brings up those childhood memories that we forgot existed. How often do you listen to lo-fi music? The psychology behind lo-fi music sounds great. Even though we now live in a very chaotic world, we can find peace and focus starting from this girl.